Christmas tree went out. When the Christmas tree goes out,
seed shelf comes in. Yay!
I mean, if it will come in instead of having to like take it apart and put it back together, I'd say just bring it in.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Ta-da! Doesn't really matter which way the bottom cord goes, right?
Correct.
Hello all. Today starts the first full weekend of 2024, and even though the garden's still sleeping, I'm starting to think seed starting. So some of the basics that we have for our seed starting, we just put a utility shelf next to one of our windows. This is something that I have found to be very useful. It's a heat mat. That just helps a lot, especially with some of the things that are a little trickier to get started. Peppers and basil are two of those things for me. Once I started using a heat mat on them, works much better. Only need to use it until things are germinated. You don't want to use it after that. One of the other things that you're going to want is some kind of fan. Now this is my upgrade. Lucky's helping me. This is my upgrade. I used a much smaller fan before and just moved it around, but this helps to like push against the plant so that they develop a stronger stem, because if they don't have anything to push up against, dogs are very happy I'm home from work. If they don't have anything to push up against, they tend to be very weak, and when you get them out in the natural conditions, they're not strong enough to thrive the way that you would like them to. Now the next thing, if you're reusing pots, which I try to do as much as possible, is you want to wash them in hot soapy water. You also need to figure out what you're going to do to supplement light. We use these 4-bulb shop lights with LED bulbs. All right. Apparently I cannot try to sit near where I'm talking. So all the way over there is our seed starting shelf. We have 3 tiers that have the light hanging from underneath the shelf, and we've got hooks up on the ceiling to hang one for some of the taller plants as they get taller. That is a lot of space for the plants. I'm gonna start some tea. So that's quite a bit of room. I start plants for a fairly large garden, and I like to give plants away. This year it happens to be my daughter likes to try to raise money for the Humane Society, so we're going to try to do some cut flowers, and I'm going to have in some way, shape, or form set up like a little plant sale for her to do, proceeds going to our Humane Society. So I'm going to also be starting some extra peppers, tomatoes, maybe basil, for her to be able to sell, along with starting some cosmos and zinnias and marigolds and sunflowers for her to be able to do like little cut flower bouquets to be able to sell. So there's going to be a lot of plants started in that space. My first place that I used to start plants, which was plenty of room for my garden, was an old coffee table. So that amount of space in one grow light started the amount of plants I needed for a decent sized garden when I was in my 20s. Tonight's pizza night. Got some frozen pesto, and we buy our cheese in bulk and shred it. So grabbing that for some pesto pizza this evening. So another thing you want, along with all the supplies that I mentioned, is some way to label. And this is one of my areas for growth. You know, when you get an evaluation and there's an area for growth. Area for growth for me is to keep straight what is what. Very often I have been planting pepper plants that I was not sure what they were. Same with tomatoes. So label them when you plant them. The light right now is just So beautiful. The earliest we can typically set plants out in this area is mid-March. That's kind of a guideline. We had one year that got warm the 1st of March and never got cold again. So that year we were planting in March, beginning of March, and had the most amazing peas I've ever grown in my life. But the very first thing that we get to harvest here on our homestead is going to be maple syrup. Now, typically typically the season isn't going to start until February. Last year, the weather was just right early January, well, mid-January. We could have even tapped earlier, I think. Freezing at night, above freezing during the day. That is the temperatures you want. And my goodness, last year, mid-January was perfect. So we have 5 maple trees on our property. None of them are sugar maples. We make a lot of syrup. I do think it's a little bit of an exception to the rule rather than the rule to get the amount of syrup that we get from 5 trees. We made 5 gallons of syrup last year, which was a lot. And we could have made a little bit more. We gave some sap away. We did have to pour some out just because we were getting so much. We weren't able to fully keep up with the amount that we got. And we did burn a little bit because that happens on occasion. So the next thing, well, seed starting and tapping maple trees this month and next month. Both of those things are going to be happening. So even though the garden is largely still asleep, it is time to get started with our 2024 growing and harvesting season. Thank you so much for those who have joined us in the past, and thank you so much for those that are going to choose to join us for this season.